Keegan Smith here for Real Movement. I've been talking a little bit about carnivore on and off for the last couple of years. I've been moved to a meat-based diet. Previous to that, I've been following something close to a plant-based diet and ketogenic diets with a heavy emphasis on fat and greens and a low emphasis on meat. I bought into the idea that we can cleanse the body by taking meat out of the diet, and I thought about the environmental consequences. I was vegetarian for a period of 9 months. I have a black tooth to show for it. This video is going to be about converting vegans to meat eating, to carnivore diet. And then you're not going to see the thing that you expect in this video. But check it out. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Converting vegans to meat-based to carnivore, how do you do it? This is a question I've been posed lately. Some people recognize that I am an influencer, I'm a trendsetter. Some people don't like that word of social media influencer, and I know that there are negative connotations with that. But I know that when I get into something and I feel as though there's an innovation that the world needs to know about, I tend to be able to drag a few people along with me. For better or worse, I've been like that since I was a little kid, and I'll probably always be like that. When it comes to veganism, this is a big question because veganism is something that people can become extremely fanatical about. I took myself away from meat and fish for a period of 9 months. I did have eggs and milk at that time, but technically, while those animals may suffer, they do suffer sometimes for that. It's not something to make light of, but you don't have to kill the animal for milk and eggs. And I kind of knew that I needed that protein, and I needed the animal proteins, the animal fats. I already was aware of Weston A. Price's work, but it was kind of for political reasons. And I hung out with a lot of vegans during my backpacking times, vegetarians. When I lived in the hills of Mexico, there were a huge, there's a lot of veganism amongst the kind of activist community, because you're a rebel and you're standing against the status quo. And that's just one more way to express that you're different. The tattoos, the funky clothes. One of the things is the diet. Firstly, I want to say that I think that most people who take on veganism, it's worthy, it's valuable, it shows people are thinking. I love it. They're thinking, well, how do we move on from the challenges of our time? If you look at the challenges of our time, there's financial challenges, there's environmental challenges, there's social challenges. How do we solve these problems? Well, people who have taken on a vegan diet, most of them have at least taken some action about solving what they see as one of these problems, the health crisis, the environmental crisis. The thing is, they've probably come up with a solution that is kind of like the self-destruct button. Initially, a lot of people feel quite high. Think of it like caffeine. If you take caffeine, you get a freaking buzz. If you're buzzing, then you're buzzing. Awesome. Except it's caffeine, except you're stressing the body, okay? So basically what you're doing when you start that vegan diet is you eat yourself. Because you're eating yourself, you're living on red meat, you're living on fat, you're living on a lot of B vitamins, a lot of things that are stored in the muscle. And as you break that muscle down, you feel great because you're eating high quality resource. Unfortunately, there's only so long you can continue to eat yourself for. It's not a long-term solution. And most people realize that, some within the first month, the first few weeks, some within a year, some within 5 years, some within 10 years. The people who tend to have those longer journeys tend to be on every kind of supplement, maybe hormone replacement. Maybe they just had a really strong constitution. Maybe they just have a high tolerance for suffering. But it's not a human diet. There's no evidence for successive generations of veganism. It's a mistake. Nature puts up the stop sign. Many people have been unable to have kids, infertile due to veganism. It's just nature's way. You can't break the rules of nature. Food is one of them. Sunlight, breath. There's lots of different rules that nature has. The more of them you break, the worse it gets. Okay, so How do I deal with this? How am I going to convert people? Well, some of what I'm sharing with you guys, may have an impact on someone, because I'm commending the political thinking behind it, and they're taking action into doing something different, better for your health, for the world. You may just have come up with a solution that's not a solution, that's an anti-solution. And if you look into the financial incentives behind the vegan movement, you will find that there is massive, massive corporate support for the vegan agenda. Now, why is that massive support there? Well, because it pushes people into pharmaceuticals, it pushes people into using more oil, okay? So veganism is actually the least environmental thing that you can do, because these superfoods are traveling all over the world. We're using, vegan leather and vegan everything. What we're talking about is plastic. What we're talking about when we're talking about plastic is fossil fuels, okay? So the most efficient way that someone could eat living where I live right now is to live on cattle that live just on the hill over there. Go and kill one every 2 weeks, 4 weeks, salt the meat, don't even refrigerate it, and live off that meat. That would be the most efficient way to live where I live right now. Not goji berries and cacao nibs and coconut oil and all these foods, but just that animal that lives over the hill there. That's the efficient way to live and to eat local food, animals that are living on the grass. Now, you can get deep into the methane and all that stuff. There's a lot of lies at the heart of this agenda, and it's not good for humans. It's not good for the environment, but the conflict that is creating between people who prefer meat to people who are vegan, that's not a good thing either. And I don't believe that we should be like, oh, we'll just everyone do their own thing, because we need to have discussion, we need to have debate, we need to put our ideas forward. Now, we need to have a degree of tolerance within this as well, not take it towards violence, not take it towards confrontation. I'm a big fan of Sean Baker in the impact that he's having in terms of getting the word out that people can avoid orthopedic surgery through their diet. And that's, he got struck off as a doctor because he was recommending people a dietary intervention, and that meant that they didn't have to have joints replaced. That's huge. And, he put his money where his mouth is, and he's backed himself, and that's great. But I don't really think that inciting and encouraging kind of the violence and the conflict that's there. I know there needs to be some, people need to be aware of the dark side of veganism. It's anti-nature. Our nature is to do what animals like us do. We have digestive systems similar to that of dogs, and if we eat somewhat like a wolf, we live pretty well. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to be carnivore. I'm not carnivore. I have some plant foods here and there. I have some rice, I have some chocolate, I have some bits and pieces. And maybe this isn't the most environmental thing to do, because it's not just growing on the hill right next to my house. But I'm not saying I'm perfect either. So how do I convert these vegans? I don't. I just share my message. I just share my experience. My friend's asking me, how do I get my friend to change? Maybe you can show him this video, but what are you doing? Ask questions, how do you feel? How's your digestive health? How's your skin? How's your libido? How are you responding to training? Personally, when I trained on a vegan diet, it didn't work. It's like the training just doesn't work. Your body just doesn't adapt, and that shows you're lacking physiological capacity to adapt. So watch out for vegan bodybuilders who are pumping a massive amount of steroids, because that's not relevant to you. You will see a lot of people reporting that carnivore diet is working for them. You will not see it popping up very much so on menus, in the newspaper, etc., because the financial lobby, the financial interest is not there with those meat products. We look at carnitine, creatine, amino acids. The most proven supplements, they're meat extracts. They're things that you get in relatively high concentrations from red meat. It's what we're designed to eat. It's what works. You can take all those supplements and do okay, but that's not environmental, and you're breaking nature's rules. You're doing things that you could not have done in the past, and as a result, yeah, maybe you can kind of get by. And I'm not completely against supplementation either. Like, it's not a black and white thing, but nature's foods are the foods that we should be focusing on, the foods that give us the best result. If you're living your best, if you're happy with how you're living, if you're not going to have kids, then it doesn't matter at all. If you don't have kids and you're not having kids, it doesn't matter that much. We're all influencing each other and we're influencing the economy. But if you're planning to one day have kids, then you need to really consider this stuff, because you're breaking nature's rules and your kids are going to suffer for it, or you will not have those kids that you would like to have. And I know that can cause a lot of suffering as well. So look at how how do you respond to your food? How does your digestive tract work? I can tell you that there are lots and lots of people who are saying that bowel movements are the best they've ever been when they're on a carnivore diet. I can vouch for that as well. I was diagnosed with irritable bowel. The doctor says, we don't know what to do about that. I tell you what we know how to do about that now. Look up all the testimonials of people who say that their guts improve massively when they cut out all the plants and they stick to meat. It works. I think it's a great intervention. It's an elimination option. Does everybody need to do it all the time? No. Do we need to open the conversation around carnivore? Yes. Do we need to continue the conversation around a vegan diet? A vegan diet for a week could be an option. Could be something smart. Vegan diet for a day, maybe even for a month at some stage for some reason. You kind of strip the body out, stress it out a little bit, pull a bunch of stuff out of it. Could be a good option. It's definitely not a human diet. It's not a long-term plan. But I'm going to only have a conversation with someone who wants to have a conversation. If someone doesn't want to have a conversation, there's no point preaching to them. I will ask questions, and if they're open, I will share my personal experience. Other than that, I'm just going to live my best. I'll put things out there if people want to consume them. If they have an opinion, then that's cool. If you've got an opinion on this, what would you add? What did I miss in discussing veganism versus more of a meat-based diet or even an omnivore diet? What's your experience with it? Did you try it? How did you go? I'd love to hear from you. The whole purpose of Real Movement is to create positive change in the world, improve performance standards, improve standards of living, self-image, overcome limitation, become who you weren't before. At the center of this is diet. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Talk to you soon. Love to hear from you soon. Keegan Smith for Real Movement. Thanks for checking out the video. Next step, if you'd like to take this a little bit further, would be to jump over to realmovement.com, RealMVMT.com, and from there you can either jump on the 1 hour athlete program, you can join our team, or you can book a planning session. Those actions will take you deeper inside of what Real Movement is all about and help you go to the next level in your health and your performance.